Socialism and government control have a very strange effect on people. My wife Debbie was in the supermarket the other day, and she said that for the first time, she stepped back for a little bit and was just watching the people in the supermarket, and they appeared to be kind of in a daze. They appeared to be sort of walking almost aimlessly around. There was no interaction among anyone. People were sort of avoiding contact or even eye contact. And people just seemed defeated, depressed, beaten down, zombified. In other words, Debbie noticed that the people around her were sort of acting like zombies. And then she said that kind of to her horror, she realized that she was one of them. She was acting like a zombie. And she began to comment about how all these controls, these coronavirus controls over the past year, have sort of changed the way that we operate and act in public space. We are not ourselves. And it flashed my mind back a couple of years ago when our little film team was in Prague shooting the film Death of a Nation. And I noticed that the people in Prague are like that. And I commented at the time that this was the after effect of communism, of 40 years of communist dictatorial control. It had sort of beaten the life out of the people there. Now remember, we were in Prague long after communism collapsed. The Berlin Wall came down in 1989. Prague was free by the early 90s, as was most of Eastern Europe. So this was 20 years later, and yet the after effect was clearly there. A friend of mine who does business in China says the Chinese people, who are of course part of the greatest totalitarianism in the world, a system stretching over 1 billion people, the Chinese people act zombified. My friend recounts a scene where he was driving to the airport in China, and you see all these Chinese people, and it's raining, and the water is pouring down, and they're standing there on the street with rice bowls, and they're all eating rice with chopsticks, and the rain is dripping down their face and going into their food, and yet they sort of monotonously keep eating. It's almost a horrifying sight. It shows really what people can be reduced to. But this is not just a problem of coronavirus or something happening in some distant land. There's a very interesting book about American Indian reservations. It's by David Truer, a member of the Ojibwe tribe, and it's called Res Life. And he's talking about life on the American Indian Red Lake reservation in Minnesota. And he talks about the fact that because of this government control, the American Indians are almost a captive population of the U.S. government. Nothing operates on the reservation. He goes, there are no hair salons, no Starbucks, no Einstein Brothers bagels, no cell phone stores, no Radio Shacks, no Jiffy Lubes, no McDonald's, no Arby's, no rent-a-car centers, no car dealerships, no Gaps, no Old Navy stores. There aren't even any real billboards. What signs do exist are small, hand-painted on plywood, often propped up against a tree. And he goes, all of this nothing on a reservation the same size as Rhode Island. So this is ultimately the enervating, deflating, dehumanizing effect of socialism. There's even a very interesting scene toward the end of Orwell's 1984 where the life is beaten out of Winston at the end, and he meets up with the girl, and the two of them had been rebels. They had sort of conspired together to fight against this evil regime symbolized by what Orwell calls Big Brother, the socialist state. And as they meet at the end, you can almost see that their relationship has been destroyed. She says to him, I betrayed you to the government. He says, I betrayed you. And then a little bit later, she says, all you care about is yourself. And he replies, all you care about is yourself. And then at the end, he says, we must meet again. And she replies, yes, we must meet again. And of course, they both know they never will. But the point is here, they are reduced to this robotic, monotonous, almost bisyllabic way of talking. They have been zombified. And so as we try to pull our way out of coronavirus, and we're not going to pull out our way out of democratic leftist control right away, but we could do that in a couple of years. Let's remember that we're not zombies. We're human beings with dignity and energy and creativity and innovation and enterprise and ambition. So recognizing that we're not zombies let's stop acting like them.